So you're going to start out, your paper is 11 inches long, so if you just go a little bit shorter than that length, you'll hit around 10 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect. Here I used my folder to draw my straight lines, to use that as a straight edge. You can also use a ruler like you see me doing here. Once you have those lines drawn, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to connect them on the ends to form a rectangle. So here I'm forming my rectangle. Didn't use the ruler there. As long as you can draw a pretty straight line, you're good. Then to divide it, you're going to go to about the halfway mark. Again, I'm not measuring, I'm just guesstimating based on where half is. Then go half again to each of those sections. Draw your lines. Now you have 4 sections, and if you divide those all in half one more time, then you will have your 8 sections. All right, so from here, you're going to number your sections 1 through 8. As you number them, if you realize that you do not have 8 sections, then you've gone wrong somewhere and you need to start over and fix it so that you do have your 8 sections. That first box, box number 1, you are going to leave just the white of the paper. You're not going to put any pencil there. It's just going to leave the white of the paper. Box number 8 is going to be your black. It's going to be your darkest tone. And here you are going to color as dark and as deep as you can make it. So you're going to press really, really hard with your pencil and color that entire box in nice and solid, as dark as you can make it. So here as I'm shading it in, I'm not worrying about my pressure other than just making it as hard and as dark as I possibly can. And I also am worrying about staying within the lines. Okay, because as you're doing your shading, you can't always go back and erase. So something like this, you have a really dark value, you're not going to be able to erase completely because of how dark it is and the indent that it actually makes into your paper. So you have to be very careful with that and make sure you stay in the lines. You'll see I'm kind of turning the paper so that way I'm working smarter, not harder. You want to go with the direction that's easiest for you. You'll see I'm also going in multiple different directions with my pencil marks, so that way it gets a nice solid coverage. You're going to end up seeing it kind of shining like that when you get finished. Then you can go back and start on square 2. Notice I'm holding my pencil towards the back. That will allow you to have much lighter pressure. The closer you hold the pencil to the tip of the pencil, the darker it will be because you have more pressure. So you see I'm holding at the very, very back, so that way I have nice light pressure as I'm putting in that lightest value, which is next to our white. It's going to barely have any gray at all. Again, going in different directions, and then going back in just ever so lightly and filling in those corners. Next for box 3 through 7, you'll see I'm starting to move my hand down a little bit on the pencil to allow a little bit more pressure. And I'm not going clear to the edge because, again, I want to focus on staying nice and neat. But here I'm starting to just kind of lay out my values and see where those value changes are going to be. So I'm not filling in the entire box yet because I want to see where those value changes are going to be, how dark I need to make each one. So that way if I do need to go back and erase and start over in a box, it makes it a little bit easier. But you'll see that each box is just a little bit darker than the one before it. Now box 6 is going to be just a little bit darker than box 5, but you have to be careful that you don't get so dark too early that you're not going to be able to get your dark values in there. So box 7, I'm pressing pretty hard, but I'm not pressing my hardest. Okay, so I'm still holding a little bit further back. I'll switch pencils because my pencil needs to get sharpened. So you'll see there that it's filling in a nice kind of charcoal gray color, really nice and solid. Turning the paper so I can get that edge without going over. And you'll see that there's a little bit of overlap there that makes you be able to see the difference from the different directions I was going. And with that, you just have to kind of go back and do some layers back and forth going in different directions to kind of smooth that out. And that's what you'll see me do in each of these boxes. You want it nice and smooth. Now that I have all of my layers mapped out, now I can go back and start to fill in. So now I'm working backwards, going to box 6 because I want to make sure that box 6 is just one shade lighter than box 7. And there again is that overlap that I'm going to have to correct for. It's going to happen. You'll notice that I'm not using my finger or a blending stump to smudge. Smudging the graphite just creates one big middle gray. It's not going to give you your different values, and the difference in values is what's going to make your drawings realistic. Now to box 5, again starting on the edge, just making sure that box 5 is lighter than box 6. It takes a little bit of practice, so if you're having a hard time and you do need to erase out a box and start over, then that's okay. You'll see there the box 5 and box 6 were too similar, so I'm adding a little bit more graphite to box 6 just to make it a little bit darker, so that way my box 5 is lighter. Value is relative, so your level 5 may be somebody else's level 4 or 6. As long as yours are 8 different shades, that's what I'm looking for. You should have white, you should have black, and then you should have 6 different shades of gray in between. You'll see there that box 5 is definitely lighter now than box 6. Going into box 4. And again, it's better to work light and add extra layers because you are going to be adding those additional layers anyways as you go to smooth out your marks. Now going into box 3, again starting along that edge between 3 and 4 just to make sure that 3 is definitely lighter. And you can't go over into box 2 because box 2 is already complete, and if you go into box 2 then you're going to be adding extra graphite in there that you'll have to balance out. So that's why again you have to be very careful and controlled with your pencil to not go over those edges. So now as I go back and look, I see that box 3 and 4 are pretty similar. So I'm going to go and make box 4 a little bit darker, just so that it's a shade darker than box 3. And you can probably see what's happening. Now box 4, 3 and 4 are now different, but now 4 and 5 are too similar. So now I'm having to go back in and make box 5 a little bit darker. And this is very likely going to happen to you too, and that's okay. Just go back and fix it. Keep making those adjustments. If you're in too big of a rush just to get it done, you're not going to have the difference in values and you will be marked down on the grade because you do need to have those 8 different shades. So now box 5 and 6 are a little too similar. So I'll go back and fix that one and add a little bit more to 6. Just kind of smooth that out and make sure that they're different. And now I need to look at box 6 to 7. That one seems generally okay, but I'm adding just a little bit more to 7 just to make sure that it's clear that there's a difference between boxes 6 and 7. Because box 8 is so dark, it's going to be pretty tough to get that dark to get 7 and 8 too close. Okay, but you can see now that there are 8 different shades. I'm going to add a little bit more to box 2 just because in the contrast between from 1 to 3, box 1 and 2 are too similar. So I'm adding just a little bit there to box 2 just to make it a little bit closer to 3 to make that nice transition. And these are what we call stepped values. So there are 8 different steps. Once you have all of those completed, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to take a photo of your value scale so you can upload it to Google Classroom.